Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a magnolia. We're going to be using acrylic paints, show you step by step how to do it from start to finish. It'll be a very good, I think, blending lesson and show you kind of the subtleties in white colors, all the different colors that are in white, and how to achieve a kind of a good depth in your paintings when you're painting something white. All right, so I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat for our live show, so if you've got questions while I'm painting, you can ask those and I'll try to answer them. Let's get started. All right, so here's our reference photo, and I've got this off of Shutterstock, actually. I've kind of pre-sketched my canvas here just to save us some time, but I'll show you kind of how I did it. I've got a 9 by 12 inch Pro Linen Belgian linen board from Fredrix. They're archival, kind of a smooth texture, so it makes it really nice for blending. And thank you to them. They're our brush sponsor. We've also got our Princeton is our brush, or I'm sorry, Fredrix is our canvas sponsor. Princeton is our brush sponsor. I think I called Fredrix our brush sponsor there. Sorry. Princeton Summit 6100 series. This is the number 12 bright, the number 8 bright, and we'll use a number 6 angle bright, probably for the background, and then a number 2 aught for round for some of the details in the center of the flower. Also got a 3/8 inch and a 1/4 inch angle shader in their Princeton VelvetTouch line. So those will probably be the only brushes that we need, and you don't have to have those exact ones, but that's what I'll be using. And if you're interested in finding those, to get for yourself, there's links down in the description to thebrushguys.com, code Angela Fine Art for 5% off, and my Amazon store to get the canvases and the paints. All right, let's go over our paint colors really quick. Unbleached Titanium, Titanium White, Cadmium Red Medium, Cadmium Yellow Medium, Yellow Oxide, Phthalo Green Yellow Shade, Ultramarine Blue, Burnt Sienna, Burnt Umber, and Carbon Black. And I think I've decided instead of doing like the black background, because it's like black with a little bit of green for the leaves, I'm probably going to add a little bit of blue. So I'll probably add a little bit of green here and there too, but I think I'm going to do the blue against that white. Just to change it up a little bit. So you can do the background whatever color you want, but I decided not to paint the entire thing black to start with, just because it could, since it's a white flower, it could be kind of difficult to paint around. So where I started was the center, and I looked on my photograph, and if I kind of went to the center to try to find the kind of quadrants, and that's sort of how I usually start when I'm trying to drawing. So in this case, the center is just above this little center of our flower. So it made it really easy. I just came straight down off of the center of my canvas and did my little round center of my flower right there. And then that made it easy to go ahead and start, my next petal, which was kind of right up next to it and kind of scooped up around. And when I'm painting, I always am kind of going back to my landmark. So I kind of go see, okay, so the top of this is going to be just a little bit higher. So I'm going to go just a little bit higher with that. It's going to be about, maybe twice the width, or about the same width as the center is going to be right here. So about that and that. So kind of use my fingers or just try to, judge it. And also I'm looking at the outside of the canvas and saying, okay, so this whole section, I should have this whole petal fitting into that section, and then I should have this one kind of coming up underneath it, fitting in there. And so I'm kind of going back and forth and always checking my angles, and every time I add something new, I always check it and make sure that it's correct before I add something else, and that way I can build on my drawing, and I know that I'm keeping everything in proportion to one another and to the edges of the canvas. So this one, you've got the little kind of semicircle, kind of tucks in like that. Then this petal and all of our petals are going to be attaching right at the base of this little center thing. So if you kind of know that, you know sort of where to point your flower petals to. So this one is kind of curving up like this. And then it's the front of it's curving around like this. And back around here like that. Then this one is coming out and doing a big fan shape up, and it's it's just off center. So here's our center. So it's just going to be kind of off center a little bit. So you know that's kind of where you want to end it, and then do another diagonal, and it's coming outside of this little center area. So you know you kind of need to make this wide enough that it's coming outside of this here. So there. And then curving down and meeting up with that and tucking in behind it down to here. Then this side, we're going to have a petal coming out this way. It's going to curve up and back down. And then we're going to see the back side of it right here. So it's going to kind of curve out and back up. And it's about equal distance almost. So from the center here, it's almost an equal distance from the edge. It's going to fill up that area, and it's going to end about halfway up this petal here. And then comes down like that. And then this part is going to curve around and come in front of that and cut off part of that and tuck in and curve back in there. Then this outside one, and I'm just going to kind of continue to kind of figure out where, or there's a little bit of this one that kind of shows right here too, the back end of that. I will have this drawing for you, so if you don't want to try to draw it yourself, you can use my traceable of it. You can also get your own photo of a magnolia if you want and trace that with tracing paper. Real easy to, don't feel like not being able to draw should stop you from painting, because that's not true. You can paint without knowing how to draw. It's helpful, but it's not necessary. So big round curve here. It's coming out and kind of cupping, going out from outside that petal there, just slightly. And kind of cutting this one in half almost right here. So it's kind of coming up like that. And then it's going to curve back around and do a V shape right here. Like that. Right? Tucked up right up next to that. Then this one is going to be this whole back section here. It's going to be like that. Comes up around. Then doing another V right here. Right. And curving in like that. This one is tucked in right here, so it comes out, comes back in flat sort of, and like that. And curves back out right there. And there's a little lip right there we'll put in. And this curves around like this. And we're seeing the back side of that petal right there. This is the only one that we're really not seeing a whole lot of it. There's a little bit of the back side of it showing right at the top there, but that's about all we're seeing of it. And then there's another petal right here that's just open. There's one, comes up to a point and comes around. And curves back in, and it's also facing this center. So if you want to know kind of where to point all of these petals, if you notice, even this one, it's kind of curving here, but if you can kind of imagine that curve is going to continue and go right here. Same thing with these ones out here. This one is going to continue to curve and end up right there. That's where all of these petals are going to end up. So make sure that when you're drawing these that you don't leave your angles wrong. You want to always kind of curve and imagine these curves kind of attaching right to that center there. Same thing here. This one is going to curve in like this and out like that. And then we're going to have this kind of V-shape here, but you're not seeing the V as much. There we go. All right, so there's our flower drawing. It's not super difficult. I think the trickiest part for most people just be able to tell is these kind of folded over places. But if you just kind of look at your shapes individually and don't try to, just kind of focus in on what you're seeing here. What are these areas around it looking like? So there's this shape right here. You should have that shape right there on your drawing as well. This angle here, you should see it on your drawing here. So sometimes it's helpful not to look at the item itself or the thing itself, but actually to look at the negative space around it to make sure that you're getting your drawing angles correctly.
So that's what you do to me, huh?
Look at the space around it.
The negative space around
The negative space around you.
Hey, you had mentioned Traceable earlier. Did
Yes.
you mention that it's available on Patreon?
I did. I don't know if I did.
Okay, so somebody had
Maybe not.
asked in chat, so just want to make sure. So
I'm not sure if I did.
Patreon.com. There's a link down below.
Yes.
And it's $1 a month to access to all of the Traceables.
Right.
All of them. Going back to February 2017.
Yes.
So not just one.
Right. It's not $1 per each. It's $1 for access to all of them.
Right.
As many as you want. All right, so I've made a gray blue here with the ultramarine and burnt sienna, or burnt umber. I mean, I've like made it really wide. I'm going to scoop this all up. Just use my brush like a shovel, and then kind of smush it down by twisting. That way I've got like color right there. I'm going to grab a little bit of this white off the side and lighten this up. I don't need it nearly this dark, obviously, but I'm going to leave this kind of little dark spot over here so I can grab some more of it as I need it. So this is going to be kind of our shadow color, and our petals, we're going to have all kinds of different colors happening in here. A lot of yellows and a lot of, what?
What brush was that?
This is the number 8.
Bright.
Bright, yes.
Boom.
Right, so I'm going to start here. I'm going to start on my far petals. Try to do that as often as I can. Do the back petals first, and that way we don't have to try to paint around them or paint right up to this one. If this one was finished, we'd have to be super careful about that edge right there. This way we can kind of paint right up to it and not have to worry too much about that edge being just right. And I'm going to wipe this off my brush once I get that on there. Clean it out. I'm going to grab some unbleached titanium and pull down into that wet paint and blend. I used a watercolor pencil to draw the Magnolia, so as I do this, as I paint it, it will dissolve into my paint, and you won't have to see it. Okay, so I put the color around the outside of the petal where I want it darkest, or where I want most of that color to be. Then if I still have too much color when I get to the middle here, I'll wipe off my brush and then just gently kind of brush between. I can grab some of this gray color, put it on just a little bit, and brush gently between those two colors, and they should just kind of blend together since they're still wet. If they're dry, you can still do this. You just have to let the gray dry completely, and then put on this color, this unbleached titanium, and brush it down over the dry color, and then wipe your brush off, grab that gray that's this color, and just pull it up over, just add a little bit of it, but that should be good. So that's our darkest area. Darkest petal. It's kind of the farthest back one. It's in the shade, so it's gonna be, even though it's in shade, it's not super dark value. There's not a huge amount of change, but you can kind of test it against your drawing too. If this came out, about the right value, or against your computer screen, you can check it too, or whatever you're using as a reference photo. Sometimes it helps after you get, some of these done, parts of your painting done, or, get your first layers done, just to check your values. You can take a photograph of it on your phone and just do your filter, make it black and white, and then that way you can kind of tell if you've gotten your values dark enough where they need to be dark, and vice versa, and light values light enough, and then that helps your next layer to be able to kind of know where you need to start, adjusting your colors. Okay, so I'm kind of just looking at my shadow areas. I'm going to kind of add color where this dark where I'm seeing this kind of shadow happening, just kind of around the bottom edges underneath some of these petals here. And I just want to make sure that this edge is fuzzy, so I'm just going to kind of put the color on and then just kind of just scratch it back and forth because I don't have my other color ready yet to put on there. So I just want to be sure that I don't have like a really solid hard edge right there to worry about blending into. If I kind of just make that edge fuzzy, then I can go back in and add other colors later. Okay, so let's do some of down here, this area. So this is like between these two petals, there's a little pocket of that background color showing just underneath between those two petals. It's not nearly as dark as some of the other paintings we've done where, you know, these little areas back here might be even close to black. You know, this is a little bit more subtle since it's white, and it's probably a daylight shot, so there's not a lot of heavy shadows in this photograph, but there is still good enough contrast. It's one of the things that you have to look for when you're choosing a photograph, is just make sure that there's some photographs that you can see, you know, especially on white items where it's just really overblown. Your image is overblown and you don't see at all these kind of contrasts between the petals at all. If you get a photograph and you're thinking about painting it, look and make sure that you can see the color changes and the value changes. If you can't, then you won't really be able to paint it accurately. So I'm just full of all kinds of tips today. I want to say hi to everybody. I forgot to do that. I just can jump right into painting here. How are you doing over there, hon?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good.
I noticed that your paper towel choice today is a...
Oh, I just had that from
different
leftover
color.
from lunch.
Okay.
Or no, actually not lunch. It was I use the white paper towels when I clean my brushes to test, and I had...
Okay.
I brought it back into the studio with me after I cleaned my brushes, because after I clean them, I always test them on a white paper towel to see, you know, and if you see color like that, then you know it's not clean yet. And keep on coloring it. Yeah, no, I didn't change my paper towels. I still have the blue ones. Just happen to have a white one right there.
So other than that, I'm doing good.
Other than that, you were confused by the paper towel
I
choice.
even got up and got you a blue one just in case. I was concerned.
All right, I think I'm going to use this one. I think I'm going to switch to the 3/8 inch angle because I think I can get into some of these tighter corners a little bit better. I might not even need this big brush. I don't know why I even chose that because it's way too big for this area. So I may not even need the 12 bright unless I use it on the background area here. And this one probably would work, but it may be a little bit big. So I think that this 3/8 inch might be the right size for us. We'll just grab it and see how it goes. All right, so where do I want to start? I guess we'll do this petal next here. So I'm going to use... Make sure I'm keeping this wet enough so that it doesn't dry out. Sometimes your mixed colors can dry out really quickly because if they're thinned out on your palette, they will dry out before you can get to using them. All right, so I am seeing some of this gray, but it's obviously not nearly as gray as before. So these ones up here are probably going to be a lot of gray. And then the ones down here are going to have more yellow because the light's catching them, and I'm seeing a lot of yellow down in here. So we're going to go ahead and do this kind of light gray up here. So I'm just added white to that gray color that we used in our shadows. And I'll grab a little bit of the darker gray just to kind of use right along there. That's going to be way too dark, so I'm going to grab more of my light color and just blend that out. Go right over the top of it. But I always put the color where I want it darkest first, and then I can always kind of use other colors around it on top of it to soften it. But that way I can get the colors just right. Grab a little bit of that unbleached titanium and do it right up in here. And I've got white in my brush still, so just mixing with that. I'm going to go right over the top of that blue line It's actually going to tint my paint color a little bit to blue, but that's okay. We'll put other colors on top of it, so it won't matter. Grab some of that gray. Right now, this first layer, I'm just trying to get my values kind of established a little bit. And by values, I just see my light and dark areas. I'm trying to figure out where to put some of these darker colors so that it does have some depth. And then our finishing layers will be adding our really bright highlights, adding our extra touches of color, so there'll be some greens in here, even on our petals, and some other colors. Put a little bit of that color down, grab that white, and blend back over. That way it kind of dilutes that color. It's still there, but it's not as dark. Grab a little bit of that dark. There's a little bit of really dark right here between those two petals. And I'm really just trying to kind of disappear these edges, get rid of these edges of our petals, so we're not seeing this blue outline of them. And the center is fairly bright, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some of this unbleached titanium and some titanium white over here, and this area is pretty bright right here. Really rarely will you use white that's like pure white. There's only a couple places on this painting it'll be, purely white, and the rest of it are going to be all kind of shades of white. If you tried to do, even though it's a white flower, obviously if you tried to do the whole thing in white, you just end up with a big white blob in a flower shape on your canvas. So do a little bit of a subtle color change right here. There we go. Okay, so our darkest area on this petal is going to be right in here, kind of just right in that triangle, like a diamond area, kind of the backside of this one. It's going to be fairly dark. I'm going to add a little bit of, let's add a little bit of brown. A little bit of this burnt umber to the backside of this flower here. The thing about this petal, this flower is a little bit trickier than some others, is that the value changes, like this dark color does not extend all the way around. It's actually darker underneath here. So it goes from being the dark value on top to the dark value behind right here. So right in this area where it switches from where these two dark colors meet, we have to actually start adding white to our, I'm going to grab the unbleached titanium with my white, and we have to start adding white right down here. So it goes from being dark up here and switches really quickly to being light colored down here. So there's contrast between those two petals. That's not the right color there, so I'm going to have to adjust that. Grab some of my white there, soften that up. But you want to keep it dark all the way until right about there, and then transition. And then on the inside of this flower, right here, there's a dark area right here. But the outside of it is actually a little bit lighter. Grabbing white and bringing it around.
So we did say hi to everybody earlier, and
Yes.
we'd like to welcome all the first-time live viewers, and especially those who have just found Angela.
Yeah,
Said, hey, wow,
awesome.
live, let's go check that out.
Glad to have you guys with us.
And hope that you hit the subscribe button and check out her channel. And she's got over 300 tutorials of painting from kids, beginner level, all the way up to advanced.
Yes.
So we hope you check those out and find something that you like. And if you never try painting, give it a try. I hear,
I've always wanted to paint and
yeah,
didn't think you could. These are the kind of lessons that'll help you get into it easily. You can kind of start with some of the easier lessons and work your way up to some of the more difficult ones like this one. This one's definitely a advanced level or more advanced. It's not going to be one of the easiest ones for sure.
it's not the bunny slope of paintings.
No, it is not. Yeah.
It's not the chopsticks of paintings.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can get there pretty fast, depending on how much effort you put into, how much work how many hours you put into painting, and it's like any other skill. You get out of it what you put into it, so.
And the main thing is that you have fun
Exactly.
doing it, that you're not getting stressed out. There's too much stress already in the world.
Yeah. So I went with kind of a medium gray, just a little bit like a shade lighter for this part that's like tucked in right there. And I'm going with white right here. There's really, on our photograph, there's really not a whole lot of, there is a petal that kind of continues down here, but you're not seeing that value change right there on the photograph much. So I'm gonna put it in, but it doesn't have to be super obvious right there. Down in here, and then there's going to be, I'll go ahead and grab the yellow. There's going to be some yellow happening that's cast light. White is like almost like, you can think of it like a mirror almost. It's very reflective, so it's gonna, this yellow petal, this yellow center of our flower is gonna cast yellow color onto our petal right there. That's right up next to it. Tucked up right up next to it. I'm gonna grab some burnt sienna, and while I've got this out, let's go ahead and put in our center of this flower right here. Added burnt sienna. I still had that white on my brush, so it's not full strength. Burnt sienna, a little bit of the yellow oxide, or I'm sorry, yellow, cadmium yellow medium. And we'll just fill that in. I'm sure we'll be going over the top of this, but we'll be adding lots of other colors to it. But we want to kind of start with a nice dark base. So when we put our light yellow colors on top, there's a little bit of contrast there. Okay, there we go. I'm going to grab some white now, and I'm going to put some white on this. Now that this is dry, I'm going to put some white over the top of this color here. Once I got this petal in, now I can see that this is a little bit dark. And it will dry a little bit darker with acrylics. They do dry a little bit darker as they dry. All of the fillers that make them stick to the canvas, the acrylic polymers, can be slightly white-ish. They have a little bit of white like if you pour out, you know, your acrylic mediums or acrylic gels, you can see they kind of have this whitish color to them. They do dry clear, but if you have enough of it, it does, you know, it does affect the color and it shifts the color. So when you put it down, there's a little bit of that whiteness in your color, just slightly. And so as it dries, that white disappears and goes transparent, and it will darken your colors because all that's left is that pigment that's dark. All right, so there we go. I hope I'm explaining that right. I'm not an acrylics expert by any means, but I think that's, as far as my knowledge, that's how it works. So. All right. Adding a little bit more of the dark right there, and I'm just going to kind of make subtle changes right here, just to kind of darken up around the edge of that petal that's sticking out right there. Grabbing some white. All right, I am going to put out some glazing liquid, and I'll show you how that kind of works, because I usually do use glazing liquid when I'm doing some blending, so that it gives you a little bit more drying time on your paintings. This one, I'm seeing a little bit of like slight greenness, so let's go ahead and use the yellow oxide. I think that'll be a good color. So go ahead and use the titanium white. We'll use a little bit of yellow oxide, and I'm going to grab a little bit of that gray that we've been using, and that gray blue mixed with that yellow will turn it slightly green. So I think that'll give us that slight greenish tint that we're looking for in here. We'll see. It'll be hard to tell when you first put it on, but as it dries, you'll be able to tell more. And this one's fairly light. They're all really fairly light. Not a lot of the darkness in this one. Not a lot of contrast. So I'm going to go ahead and do the white right along that edge and make sure that I'm covering up that blue color really well, if I still see it from my pencil. Whatever color you use, I didn't use black. I could have used black and it would have made this kind of edge gray, but there's a lot of blue in this white, flower already, so I thought that the blue would probably be easier to cover and less obvious than doing black and trying to cover gray lines when I did my over the top of it. Colors over the top. Okay. So that one's almost just solid, that color. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of any other colors in there. Maybe a tiny bit of this blue. We'll put tiny bit like over here, just to kind of help it curve. But it's pretty much solid. Doing all right, hon?
I'm doing okay.
Doing okay? Okay. I'm going to go and grab that burnt sienna color and go ahead and pull it up onto this right here in the center part of the flower. It's got a little bit of that color coming up off of it. Grab the white, pull it in the opposite direction to blend that in. Wipe off my brush. Use a dry brush to kind of just tap over, and it'll kind of act like a sponge and sponge up anything that I don't want there. keep on going. So on this side, I'm seeing a little bit of this yellow. I'm going to go ahead and use the yellow oxide, maybe a little bit of that burnt sienna, just right in here. Wipe that off my brush. Get some of this kind of yellowy color that we were just using up here. Maybe add just a tiny touch of cadmium yellow. Maybe a tiny touch of this unbleached titanium. This color's a little bit darker in here. And just blend back down into that. And then grab some of that blue, and there's some of that shadow color right in here. Somewhat dark, not as dark as right here. And then I'm just going to kind of blend it out into, put the color where I want it darkest, wipe my brush off, and then kind of lightly tap between those two colors that are still wet and just kind of pull them into one another. If you have enough paint down, they'll just kind of smudge into one another. If one color is kind of dominating the other one, you can pick up a little bit of that yellow or pick up a little bit of the gray and put it back in there to kind of help push that paint around where you want it to go. This is actually kind of a hard shadow almost. It's still got a little bit of fuzzy edge, but there is a kind of a defined shape. It's mimicking this, so I'm going to kind of do that curve and then just tap off that edge and try to keep that shape a little bit. Keep that curve. There we go. Okay, grab the white. This pretty much pure white right here. It is going to be tinted by that blue border. Yet again, I'm going to go ahead and do this whole area kind of white and just sort of try to disappear that color there. There is definitely some green, so I'm going to go ahead and grab just a tiniest touch of that phthalo green. Maybe a little bit of that gray. And then do it around the back side of this petal right here.
Okay, going back to the center. What colors were in the center part?
This part is burnt sienna. I had the whites on my brush, so whatever I was using, it didn't really matter. I had a little bit of white on my brush, and then yellow, cadmium yellow, and burnt sienna. Mostly burnt sienna. Okay, this is nice. Definitely good color right there. I'm going to grab some of that gray.
Spritzing the paints.
What?
Spritzing the paints.
Yeah, keeping them moist.
It's October 6th, and our air conditioner is running because it's like 90 degrees outside.
I know. I'm ready for fall. It's not coming anytime soon. It's decided to. And sometimes it's so funny this time of year because sometimes for Halloween we'll be out there in sweaters and sometimes we'll be out there in short sleeves. You just never know what it's going to be like. You can either be bundling up your kids because it's freezing out, or you can be really regretting having that full face mask costume. Just never know. It's the joys of living in Arkansas. Okay, I'm going to add some of this green up in here too, so I'm seeing some of it up here. And I'm blowing my brush strokes in the direction that the petals are growing. That's something that I just generally do as a habit. It's a good thing to do when you're painting with flowers. That way, if any of these, this painting, this flower in general, though, is very waxy. So it doesn't have a lot of streaking at all. Really any streaking. You're seeing basically just a solid color. So we're seeing very soft gradations between colors. So like this area here, I want to kind of clean up because it's looking a little bit streaky. You know, I'm wanting to try to keep my color shifts very subtle on this painting, on this flower, because it's not a flower that has a lot of streaks or you're not seeing the veins and things in it. So let's darken up right here. There's a little bit darker area right there. Wiping my brush out and just trying to kind of pull that edge out into my other colors with just a damp brush. And you just want to be sure that, like right here, I can kind of see that the color underneath was starting to dry. It wasn't fully dry, and so it's got sticky and it's kind of lifting a little bit. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing this. Just kind of be aware of messing with your paints too much when they're in the middle of the drying process. So it doesn't take too long for acrylics to dry. That's one of the things that's nice about working with them. So you can work very fast and do lots of layers, but it also kind of makes it tricky to do some blending because you may have to wait for things to dry. Get a hair dryer and just speed up the process if you need to.
So I wasn't paying attention the last several minutes.
That was that gray color, and I just kind of put it in right here to make a shadow around that corner. What? And this is white.
I would like to know what are the pros and cons of doing the background later.
Well, in this one, for one thing, the shapes are going to be very simple. So we don't have, like, if I was doing a feathered edge of something like grasses that were kind of doing, some sort of thing like this, there'd be no way that I would want to try to paint around them ever. So I would always do my background first and then do my little, do or whatever that was going to be on my flat flower. But these are solid edges, solid corners, so it's super easy to just paint around them. There's no reason to do the background first. So yeah, just look at your edge. If your edge is easy to paint around, just save it for later. You don't have to paint it. And plus, this being white, if this is any other color flower, like red or something like that, I might have done the whole background a color and then done the flower on top if I wanted to see some underlayer of some other color happening. Yellow would have been like a yellow oxide could have been an option for this painting, even though it's white. It would have been an option, but it would have taken several more layers. This will go a lot faster since we don't have those underlayers, but it's also not going to be as dynamic. Maybe it won't be as richly in depth because of that too. So there's a trade-off. The extra layers will give your painting more depth, for sure, and more kind of visual interest, I think. But they also do take a little bit longer to cover up different sometimes. So, all right, doing white here, just plain old white. And I'm definitely going to add some color, but this is really close to white right along this edge here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And then put that all down, just paint it in fast. And then while that's wet, I'm going to go and grab some of that green that we were using up here, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in underneath right here. Go right over the top of that white. And just pull it up into that paint. Let me go and mix a little bit more. That's the yellow oxide and phthalo green and white here. Wipe that most of it off. There we go. And acrylics are nice too, because if you make a mistake or you get, you go over your line, you can always take as long as this paint underneath is dry, like right here, I can just take my wet towel and kind of go over that line and kind of help blend it out. Or pull off the paint if it went someplace that I didn't want it to go. But there we go. So that's got kind of green. So this area over here has got a lot more green. Like I said, we're kind of going a little bit more yellow as we get down toward the bottom. So we're transitioning between kind of the blue grays up here to the yellow grays down here. And we've got the green kind of in between, meeting in the middle. So let's add some of this green up in here too. And whenever you're kind of adding a new color like this green, we're going to want to also add it on the other side, maybe in a small, limited area. So maybe like a little bit right in here, just to kind of pull that color and unify your painting. You could maybe put it a little bit in your shadow, or a little bit right in here, just a little bit. And you can use your glazing liquid for that. Makes it really easy to kind of just blend in a little color, just glazing. And once we get our values in there, that's why we're kind of working on those values and trying to get them right the first time, or get them close to right the first time. And that way, all we have left to do is just kind of add a little bit of color shifting, just adjust the colors a little bit. And we can do that by glazing. We don't have to go over the entire area with new colors. Going over this with some white to try to kind of blend out that area, but I need to let that dry. We'll keep on going. We'll keep on working on this one. So this one's got a lot of that kind of green yellow color right here. Seeing? Put some of that down. Wipe my brush, grab some white. Go around the outside of that color and kind of pull in around the edges. So I laid the color in where I wanted it to be. Now I'm coming around with the white and kind of just attacking the edges a little bit. Just kind of sieging, laying the siege down, some white all the way around it. And try not to mess with the middle too much, but just kind of pulling out that color from the sides and blending it into the white. You can tell I've been reading fantasy books again. Okay, grabbing that gray. Do some of the gray, blue-gray over here a little bit. It's amazing when you put this down. It's gonna be very subtle, but as you can see, as it dries, you can see all these colors popping out. So just kind of, it's kind of going to be difficult as you're blending. It may be a little bit difficult to see that you're doing any good, but once it dries, you'll kind of get to see kind of what actually is happening there. It can be pretty tricky to work with white. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little bit, a little bit harder than some other colors. Probably one of the harder colors to blend.
I'm zooming in to help people see the white.
Okay, good.
It's just
good. Yeah, so it's not just solid white everywhere. All right, so I'm going to grab some of this gray that's up in here, and I'm just going to try to blend that out a little bit into my other colors. So lay that light gray down, and then I'm going to grab my white and blend over the top. Cover over that blue that we're seeing from the pencil lines. And then if it's not blending for you, grab some little glazing liquid. You don't necessarily need to get more paint. Just kind of grab some glazing liquid, and that'll kind of help push that paint around for you. All right, grab some more white here. I'm going to go over this area here too. I'm still seeing a lot of this blue around the edges where I don't need it. So I'm just going to kind of use this to clean up with the white. Now that that first layer is dry. Okay, grab some more white and right here, go right over the top of that edge there. Same here. This area here, back here, will be more obvious once we get our background on. We can kind of see what we're doing right here. A little bit difficult to kind of see where what's happening with that petal there. So actually we could do kind of a thing where we just sort of faded out around it. Didn't do a solid color, but just sort of painted a little bit around that edge and just left our brush strokes kind of streaky.
Okay, are you aware of any particular type of an acrylic paint color that may fade a lot over time? I know that the Golden Company does a lot of aging,
a lot of research
and
on
testing and things like that. So
yes, they'll say light fastness. It'll say on the bottles, number 1 is the best. And then if it's I'm trying to see where if I have Hansa. I don't know. They found that the Hansa yellows were not as good as the cadmium. I'm not sure if they're still a series 1 or light fastness 1 or not, but yes, there are colors that don't hold their color in light in certain conditions, as well as others. Yeah, so, and for sure, if you're putting your painting out in direct sunlight, that's a big issue. That's going to be a big issue. Because really any paints are going to fade in direct sunlight. So, I don't know about oils, but I know with acrylics for sure. So, you need to be sure that you're varnishing with a UV protected varnish if you know your painting's going to be directly in sunlight or near, getting a lot of sun. UV varnishes can help protect your paints from that happening. I'm just going to kind of put down my first coat there, try to kind of cover up some of that blue. I wouldn't have put this color on as dark as I did either. Actually, probably could tap over it with a wet towel just to kind of lift off some of that color before I paint over it. Try to paint over it. It'll help. Normally I would just put a very, very thin line, kind of like what I did before I, darkened it up to show you. I don't usually do a really solid, heavy line with my sketches because that way I don't have to fight the color. Even with chalk, it'll sometimes bleed through. So I'm just going to I should have done this first thing.
Okay, got another question, but this one regarding to your paints.
Okay.
You spray your paints on your palette periodically, but there's no set time.
No.
So what is it about your paints that make you go, oh, I got to spray them down some?
You can see when the edges are starting to kind of look dry, especially the blended paints. It's the ones that I'm working with, currently, that I usually can tell. If they're starting to dry out pretty quickly, then I'll know that I need to spray everything down. So, or look at the colors that I've mixed over here. You can tell, there's not a lot of this color left in here. There's a little bit. So, and if I don't see any water droplets on anything either, then kind of time Time to hit it with another spritz. All right, gonna grab some of that gray. I still have I've got the gray blue. I'm grabbing that gray green, the color, the yellow oxide and green. And I'm gonna do that down here, just like this we did over here, right? And I'm gonna blend that over the top of that dark gray that we have in there. And if we want to keep that dark gray, I can wipe my brush off and grab just the dark gray and kind of blend back this way. Ideally, I would be turning my canvas here. I'm trying not to turn it, but yeah, I know, but so blending those two together, just adding a little bit of fresh gray, that dark gray down there. Green, and this is actually quite a bit lighter. It's dark, but not as dark as this. So there's this shape here is mimicked, so it kind of goes right here like that. See that? Now we have a little cast shadow. We just kind of added a little bit of white over the top of that area between those two. Okay. Just keep on adding more of that white to it. As we get farther out, it's going to be lighter toward the tip of the flower. Maybe grab a little bit of the gray and the white. Do more of the gray up here. It's not as dark up here. It really only dark right in here. All of this is pretty subtle. Okay. Here we go. Am I getting my hair in it this time? Or am I doing okay?
I haven't noticed, so I think you're doing okay.
Oh, good. I'm going to do some green here. Pull some of that green up that way. Get some glazing liquid, glaze it over the top. That white's still a little bit wet, so we're just kind of trying to blend it in really. Okay, we'll let that dry. Let's put some of this color here. And then right in here, there's more of the like yellowish color. So we're going to see some of this color with from the center of the flower again. So I'm going to add cadmium yellow to the burnt sienna and mix that with that green color that we have going on. A little bit of white. Use that down in here. More of it on here. grabbing the white, blending over that lightly, blend them together. There's really not a whole lot of white, just maybe right in here. It's like pure white. Wipe my brush clean, and then I'm going to grab some more of that kind of green and yellow oxide mixture. And a little bit of blue, a little bit of that Ultramarine Blue. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. All right. A little bit of white, because we don't want it nearly that dark. And we're going to use that in here. It's going to look really dark right now. We'll grab some white, wipe most of that off. So just laid a little color down here, and I'm going to grab that white and just work it around it. Pull a little bit of that color out. While that color's wet, wipe my brush off, pick up a little bit more of that kind of brighter green. There we go. And just sort of go over the top. Now that I have fresh white and fresh green here, I can kind of smush them around. And if I have too much green, wipe my brush off, pick up some more white and pull the white down over the top. Vice versa, if I have too much white, I can put some green in there. So I can kind of play with those colors while they're wet. Grab some more white here. This whole area is kind of a greenish yellow. And this area here is kind of bright. This definitely has that Georgia O'Keeffe feel to it. I don't know if she did magnolias. You want to see? We can see if she has a magnolia painting. I didn't look it up, but really, these are kind of her colors too. Sort of almost those watercolory feel. She did a lot of flowers, so. I want to say she did. I kind of feel like I've seen something similar. Okay, gonna go with really dark burnt sienna right here. And maybe even grab some burnt umber with the burnt sienna. Do it really dark right in here. And really dark.
Yeah, but not nearly as good as yours.
Oh, really?
Kind of amateur looking.
Let me see.
Well, no, I don't know. These are all other artist paintings. Hold on.
Google Georgia O'Keeffe Magnolia.
Thank you, honey.
Did you know how to use Google? I'm just trying to help you there.
So
That's
much.
how you use it.
Wow.
What you want to find, and then you just put the name in.
You just type that in?
Type that in. Mm-hmm. It's a bit that easy.
Well, I've been using it wrong all this time.
You're welcome. Put that blue on the tip of my brush. Sorry, I'm trying to paint and think. It's not easy. Trust me. Stating the obvious here. For your benefit. Whether you want it or not. I'm just trying to put a dark shadow right here. Right in that little area there. And down in here. Grab some white. Oh yeah, that's kind of the one I was thinking of there, maybe. It looks like a camellia, maybe. See, that's already dried out. I didn't spray it in time. Didn't catch it in time. And it can help if you add, you know, if you mix up bigger areas. So like, you know, mix up a bigger, thicker spot. That's why I scooped all that to the middle, because these edges will dry really fast. But if you kind of have a little glob of it in the middle, it'll take it a little bit longer to dry. So, all right. I think actually this could come out now that I'm seeing this. Bring this yellow, cadmium yellow medium, and a little bit of this burnt sienna mixture, a little bit of white. I'm going to bring this out a little bit farther up. This petal here.
Somebody pointed out that your palette is starting to look like the flower too.
It is.
You get the burnt umber in the middle and the whites and the greens.
On the outside.
I gotta agree with them. It does look like the flower. Very abstract.
Oh, I see right here. Yeah, it sure does. That's funny. Yeah, this palette has a life of its own. It just does all kinds of fun stuff while I'm painting. I've seen wolves and skeletons and all kinds of different things while I'm painting with it. Okay, and some more of that white, yellow, just I'm gonna pull down, try to blend a little bit right there. Okay, so right here is not quite as dark enough, so we're gonna, now that we've seen it dry, we can grab a little bit of, I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of this color here and add it to the back side with some of that green and go a little bit darker right here. So here's our area that we kind of laid siege to earlier, joking about. So we're going to do it again. Grab that white and go around. We laid some thick color on there. Maybe just a shade darker than we want it to be. And we'll just go around it with white. Blend out those edges a little bit. Looking at where I want it to be brightest or darkest on my picture. So I'm seeing that it's right in here. So that's where I'm laying that color. And then I can go around it and soften out the edges. Blend around them. So this is definitely coming together. It's looking pretty good. Definitely still need to kind of work on that area right there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some of that gray again. Try to blend over that area. See if we can kind of get it blended in a little bit better. I'm pretty happy with this one. I think that one's dark enough up there. I don't think I'm going to need to do anything else to that. Probably going to add a little bit of the green to that one maybe. This could use a little bit of softening of blending right there maybe. So I can add a little bit of the gray to that green color, some white, and just do another layer over the top of this, kind of a thin layer. When I say thin, I'm talking, I've thinned it with water a little bit. You can thin it with a little bit of glazing medium if that helps. if you enjoy using that better. Okay. So let's add a little bit of this over here too. Actually, I think that was still drying, so I don't want to mess with that. Let's add it under here. Grab some white, mix that in with that green. Grab some yellow. This area under here is a little bit more yellowish, so grab some yellow. That's a pretty color. Pull up.
Ooh, got a question about grays.
Do it.
They would like to know, how would you, or how do you choose, or how do you create, sorry, let me go out, come back in.
Okay, go back, try again.
Nobody expects a Spanish Inquisition. Our two main questions are, sorry. Okay, they want to know, how do you create warm versus cool gray?
It depends on, well, you know, your colors. So, green is kind of a transitionary color between cool and gray, and also reds. So, red, orange, yellow are traditionally warm colors. Blue, purple are cool colors, and then depending on the colors you mix with them, your greens can be either like more of a turquoisey, close to the blue. Those could be more cool, and you know, of course, closer to the yellow, your green can be more of a yellow green, and that's more on the warm side. So just the colors that we're using, so like with this color up here is a cool gray because we use blue, which is a cool color, and we use brown, which is just a neutral that'll, you know, the burnt umber, that'll neutralize it. So really, I mean, it's an easy way of creating cool and warm grays is just to use brown, like a burnt umber. So if I wanted a warm gray, I could use like brown with my cadmium red, and then white, and I'd have this kind of warmish gray. And then I could, if I wanted to gray it out even more, which it's kind of looking a little bit kind of more of a soft red there, you could use the opposite on the color wheel, so like green, and that'll neutralize it and make it even more gray. But because we have so much red in it, it's going to be a cool or a warm gray. And then if we want to, you know, same thing with yellow. If we use a yellow with like a purple, we can make either a cool or a warm gray with those two colors. Just add a little bit more purple if you want it more on the cool side, and add a little bit more yellow if you want it on the warm side. So knowing kind of which colors you're using and where they fall on the warmth and light scale, you can really make anything, any gray you want to. And really the easiest way of creating grays usually is just adding the opposite on the color wheel. So in our case, we're using this blue gray right here, and when we're adding it to this warm yellow gray, it's neutralizing it a little bit and kind of making it more neutral for this middle part. And then down here, we're definitely using more of the green yellow combo, and it's much warmer color. So, and then this burnt sienna is definitely like a warm brown. So, and actually burnt umber is a slightly warm brown too. If you want a more like cool brown or like completely neutral brown. You could use raw umber. I don't like it as well. I just think that burnt umber creates a really pretty warmer brown. So I preferred using it. But I see raw umber used a lot too. So I hope that makes sense.
Yep, it does.
Alrighty, good. So getting yourself a color wheel is really helpful because usually the color wheel will tell you which colors are warm and cool. Let me see if I can find mine. There we go. They're all tucked in here. And it says cool colors, warm colors, which I think yellow-green falls in the little warmer colors myself, but that's just me. Cool colors, warm colors, so it's got a little more red in it than the violet, than the purple. Makes it warmer. So
do the cool colors wear leather jackets?
They do. They
okay.
do. Yeah. So I guess they're saying that the green yellow kind of starts working it into the cooler colors there. What's with the hydrangea?
Somebody asked if you would paint one.
Oh.
And I said that you did.
So you wanted me to show it?
It's an example for later.
Yeah. Hydrangea, there's the hydrangea that we painted for one of our bonus videos. Yep.
That's on
Patreon.
Patreon.com.
Yep, it's $5. And you get that one. You get the access to the portrait that we just did.
Yeah, the portrait's incredible.
The cornucopia, which is good for this time of year. It's out in the living room already. Huh?
Which was amazing too.
Yeah. So we do... That hydrangea took us 5 hours to finish, something like that.
It was 2 shows.
2 shows, yeah. I think it was like 2 hours one time and 3 hours the other time, or maybe longer. I don't know. It might have been longer than that. Can't remember. You have to look it up, but...
Yeah, the female portrait took 6 hours. So, yeah. I mean, for a $5 investment, you get a 6-hour tutorial on how to paint a portrait. It's pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah, the hydrangea just takes a long time because it's just super detailed. It's got so much detail in it and so many layers. I'm going to grab a little bit more of that blue and create that kind of blue-gray green color again. So a little bit of ultramarine blue in here with this. And I'm going to use the white. What are you looking for?
The portrait.
It's behind you. It's bigger. It's on a big canvas.
Yes. Somebody wanted to see it too, so we get a break. Zoom out, I think.
Ooh, there she is. No, that's fine. I could have probably spent another hour on her easily, because there's a couple of things that I would have changed still, but she turned out pretty good. It's one of those things you just kind of have to, at some point with these tutorials, you just have to kind of quit. But you have all the time you need. You don't have to be on a time schedule like I am. Really, I probably could have done it in another month, but I didn't want to do it another month. This month I wanted to do something different. So this month we're doing a bear. It's going to be really fun. We're going to do like a landscape with a bear. And it's kind of a sepia-toned, kind of neutral palette. So it's going to be interesting. Adding some of that gray there to the back side of that petal, just to kind of curve it around. So yeah, if you haven't joined our Patreon crew, please, you can do that. And we do bonus videos once a month. And you also, for that $5 level, you get the finished paintings. So you get the high resolution images of all the finished paintings. You also get the traceable that the $1 level gets. But you get the reference photo and my finished painting high resolution photos. So you can use those if you're going to be painting it yourself. Can help.
And the $10 level is all that, plus access to a private Facebook group where there's even more tutorials. A weekly.
Yes.
There's a monthly challenge, and so there's weekly tutorials.
Yeah, we usually do one image and we spend all month on it. Last month we did the succulents. Actually, last 2 months we did the succulents. Took 10 hours. So.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And you
And
just,
right now we're
just started.
We're working on this. It's really
That
nice
is.
looking. Isn't that awesome?
Wait a minute, that is not what it looked like when I left.
It's going to look like that when we finish it. We are in the ugly stage, hard ugly stage right there.
Oh, that's like making candy. You got the crack and the hard crack
Exactly.
stages.
It's the hard crack stage right there. As in somebody's been smoking it. Not really.
I do not see a teacup in that, but okay. If you say so.
It's there. It's going to happen. Adding darker. I don't know why I'm messing with this one because it looked okay, but I feel like it needed a little bit darker shadow right there. So we're just going to add a little bit darker shadow right there. Okay. Keeping on going, moving around here. Let's add a little bit of this gray. So we're out of the gray, so I'm going to pull in some of this blue from down there and mix another batch of it. And wipe most of that off. Use that under here. There we go. Make sure that this first layer is dry before you do this, otherwise you just pull the paint right off. Because it's been so long, it's not dry. You know, if it's not dry, it's going to be close to dry, and it will not be happy to be messed with. Acrylics like bond to one another when they dry, so they become like plastic almost, and they stick to whatever is touching them. And if your brush touches it while they're drying, it'll stick right to your brush and lift right off the canvas. So you definitely don't want that to happen. All right, I'm going to grab some of this dark color, poke it right down in here. Here, sorry. This brush has been working pretty good, but I may have to switch to the smaller brush for this area once we get into these tighter areas. Might be easier. Same thing for right here. Just go a little bit darker right there. That'll pull your eye right down in the middle too, having those darker contrast colors. And I am kind of exaggerating the color a little bit. It's a little bit more gray in my picture, but I'm wanting to give it a little bit of this blue tint, so that's just my artistic choice.
Well, I don't mind that it pulls my eye down there as long as it can breathe.
It'll breathe because it's got all these other colors around it. That'll make it let it breathe.
All right. It can't breathe.
This was one of my first shows that you did with me. You teased me about saying that.
I had never really heard the term "your eyes breathing," but you art people are kind of wacky that way, so okay.
Yes. Okay, and grabbing some of this blue, and I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber to it, just to warm it up a little bit. Add some glazing liquid. And I think the reason that I like this gray so much too is it is super easy to go back between warmer and cooler grays, because you've got both of those colors. You know, the burnt umber is more of a warm-ish brown and warm color, and then the ultramarine is a very cool blue. It's almost, you know, when you add white to the blue, it looks like a light violet color. So I'll wipe my brush off, and then we're going to kind of clean up this edge, but there is kind of a hard edge shadow between right here. Mimics this curve again, so we're going to kind of just go over it with a little bit of this lighter color.
I think we need to get one of those massage chairs for me over here.
I think so. I think that's a good idea.
Good.
Next year, that'll be part of your Patreon. We'll just do like when we get to a certain level, we're going to buy Mark a massage chair to sit in over there. I think that would be legit. Going to grab some gray and that brown gray. Add it right there. Grab a little bit of white. Just blend that in so it's kind of not so obvious. And a good way to kind of control this color too is just to load the very tip of the brush. On these angle brushes, you can do that really easily. And if you load just kind of the tip of the brush with a little bit of paint, then you can kind of just push it in there where you want it to go. What are you laughing at?
They're saying that I'd fall asleep for sure.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We have a hard enough time keeping him awake for these shows.
Well,
Not a good idea.
The last 2 days I did actual real work for a change, and my body is paying for it. So if somebody would like to know, are magnolias a popular flower?
They are in the South. They're a
Yeah.
very popular flower in the South. They grow a lot around here. We actually have a pink magnolia tree in our yard that blooms almost all year long. It's still blooming. You know, it does these really beautiful, like tulip-shaped flowers. They don't open up very much, and they're a lot smaller than these. But these magnolia flowers can get ginormous. Like they can get just about as big as this, or bigger, I think. And they're very common in the South. The trees get really large, and their leaves are really bright, really deep forest green, dark, and waxy, super waxy. So yeah, they're popular in the South. We've gotten a lot of requests for them over the years. So this was kind of one of the reasons why I did it. It was just kind of. I don't know. I think the next one we're going to do is a red rose. So we did the white rose last year, the year before last, I think. Maybe a couple of years ago. It was one of the first of the large flower series that we did. So now it's time for that red rose. So we'll do the red rose. And probably in November. So you can look for that if you're a fan of roses. And then I have another another pop peony that I found that's not a traditional peony that I might do. If you've got pictures of flowers that you want me to do, I'm always looking for new ideas, so feel free to email me or share it with me on Facebook. I have my Thankful Art group. We sometimes do contests. Right now we're running a contest for a quote for my t-shirts, so we're going to be doing some new merchandise, probably a limited edition sale sometime this fall, maybe, hopefully, if we can get it all worked out. maybe offer some different things that we haven't offered before. This is that yellow burnt sienna and cadmium yellow here. So we're doing a contest for quotes, t-shirt quotes. So if you like to do something like that, you can join my Thankful Art group and add your... We've got to actually pick them this weekend because I got to announce the 12 winners on Monday, or the 12 finalists on Monday. So you have till Sunday. And I'll probably make Mark and everybody else that's here help me pick the winners. pick the finalists, and then my group is going to pick the winners. We're going to poll.
Well, my shirt already has a quote on it, so.
And it's Mark's quote, yeah.
And it's available in the Teespring store already.
That's true. Just adding a little bit of this color, blushing a little bit of this color on. Yep. We already have a Teespring store with a bunch of different things. A lot of the quotes are Mark's quotes in there.
So can they submit more than one quote?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I'm just going to go through and pick the ones that I think, I would like to see on a shirt, and then I'm going to let the group pick what they would actually buy on a shirt. If they have the option. And the winner's going to get a free shirt once we make them. It won't be right away, obviously, because we don't have them ready yet. But once they are available, we'll send them one. Grabbing some more of that blue, gray, and picking up a little bit of that yellow, white to kind of tone it down. And then I'm going to go dark right along here. This is darker than this in our picture. So this little area. And then grabbing some glazing liquid here, just kind of make that easier to blend out. I'm just going to grab white here and just going to pull it over the top of this. Blend that out. I put that kind of yellow-brown color on the bottom here while I was talking about shirts. Grabbing some green here. Add some of that green too. Grab the glazing liquid to kind of help it blend together. Gives it a little bit more drying time too. This is the golden glazing liquid though. Not all glazing liquids do that. Golden glazing liquid has an extender in it that allows for a little bit extra blending time. So don't grab your regular glazing liquid because it will not do this. If you do, it actually will speed up the drying time, and a lot of glazing liquids will not give you as much blending time. Okay, so we're done filling in. This is our last petal to fill in here. Now we just need to kind of do some corrections on colors. So I'm going to go in here and kind of glaze over the top and try to smooth out any areas that I see that are looking obviously like not blended. And darken up some of the transitions between colors if needed. Right up here. We did a fairly good job on our first layer though. It actually is not looking too bad. I grab that brighter white. Do really bright white all along this edge here. Make sure I cover all that blue. And then I'm going to switch to my smaller brush. Now I'm going to grab my number 1 round, or my 2-aught round, I'm sorry. Grab that white. And I'm going to go in here and brighten up some of these leading edges where we want really obvious highlights. And since we've used all these other colors in here, it'll be fairly easy to make that white, these white areas really pop out and be obvious. Because most all of this has been other colors happening. I go up just underneath this and put a little bit of shadow right up underneath there. Grab my white and blend just below it. Grabbing the white here, gonna thicken up this area right here. There's kind of a thicker spot. You're seeing the edge of that petal. You okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are you sighing over there?
Oh, I clicked in the wrong window and then it launched your lavender video.
Where?
On my computer.
Oh, okay.
Not on the live stream
Okay,
here.
thank you. You scared me for a second.
In case you haven't seen it yet.
Okay, and some bright color right here. See how these just little bits of extra bright white you'll see the difference down here. I'll do it down in here and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. There's a little bit that pokes out right there. It just pulls that color forward where we want it to be more obvious. There's a little bit of blue right there I need to touch up, and on here too. So this is actually kind of more white right here. Okay. And I'm not really blending this in at all. I mean, I'm blending a little bit along that edge, but I really do want it to be fairly bright, so I'm not doing a lot of blending right there. I mean, you don't want it to look like it's outlined, so if it's not, it's not looking good, then you can kind of blend it a little bit, but let's do bright white right here. This is bright coming around there.
So do you think this painting will be hanging in the house or just hanging out in the studio?
I don't know. We don't have a lot of room in the house anymore, sadly. I tend to do seasonal stuff, so I tend to have, put something out that's that's timely. So like right now we have the pumpkin that we did last weekend and the cornucopia out for the fall, and then closer to Christmas we'll put out some Christmas paintings, and then in the spring I'll put out more floral and that kind of thing. So, but I switch them out pretty often. I have 2 spots in the house where I have some of these smaller paintings. You know, I have a lot of the larger paintings hanging up from previous.
So do you have like a supply of paintings where you can choose from?
Just a couple.
Okay.
Got ultramarine blue here. Mixing it a little bit with the green. Yeah, I'm grabbing that glazing liquid. I'm going to go in here and darken up right there. I'm going to pull this color out. Makes it easy for gift giving. I can just grab something that's in the studio. Okay. I don't want to let that set too long before I kind of blend over it, because if you let it set too long, you can end up with these kind of weird lines and spots. So I'm going to set it down, but kind of want to do small sections at a time so that you're not fighting the clock, because these, you know, acrylics do dry pretty quickly on you. So I'm going to grab some of the yellow, cadmium yellow, mix that in with some of this gray-green color. Do some more of this cadmium yellow down in here, a little bit brighter, warmer yellow. A little bit of it up here underneath this one. And a little bit under here. This is fairly dark under here, so I need to darken up this area quite a lot. But this is starting to dry, so I can't really mess with it too much right now. Let's go ahead and put a little bit more of it under here. This one's dry. Grab some glazing liquid here. Glazing liquid will just help kind of smooth these transitions between colors so they're not so obvious. You don't get as many streaks and things. Okay, we're pretty good there. I'm going to go ahead and work on the center of the flower. Grabbing that cadmium medium. Let's grab some of this unbleached titanium. I haven't used that a lot. It was just a little bit too, I don't know. I didn't like it for this one. It was just a little bit too brown, maybe. I'm not sure, but it just wasn't quite doing it for me. So white seemed to be working a little bit better. Grabbing some white. And I'm going to grab a little bit of green and do a little bit of green in the center here. Just at first, there's a few little areas in here that are kind of green. Just going to tap in a little bit of kind of yellow-green. Make sure I've got some of this burnt sienna ready to go. So let's use some of that green over here. Just gonna tap in along that edge. You want to make sure that you've got your background and everything done before you do this step. So just make sure that there's nothing that you really need to paint around, because you don't want to have to try to paint around this.
Oh, I missed the brush change.
This is the 2-aught.
2-aught round.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
2-aught round. All right, I'm going to grab some burnt umber. Mix that with that yellow, cadmium yellow. Got a deep kind of deep yellow color. I'm really not sure why I included the cadmium red. I think I thought maybe I'd need some of it in here, but I don't know that I do. Okay, so I'm going to kind of use it to create some little nubby shapes outside the border. Do those first. Leaving a little bit of space in there. Do you want to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better?
Oh, I do.
Maybe.
Where am I zooming to?
Just the center part here. Just that's good. That's good enough. All right, I'm going to grab a little bit of this background color here. Do it right under here. There we go. Dab, dab, dab. Leaving just little spaces between. A little bit of dark. Okay. And then grabbing that yellow, bright yellow with white. Getting a pretty soft yellow. And I'm smushing my brush flat, so I have kind of a rounded tip on that. Almost like a tiny, tiny filbert. And I'm gonna in like that, like they're overlapped a little bit. Oh. Try not to cover too much of the background. You want to leave a little bit of space between these, just a tiny bit, so you see the dark color there. And then I'm going to use this color to highlight our little curly Q things that are sticking up here. They're kind of face this way. As I turned over here, these ones kind of turn this way. There we go. If you get them too close together, you can kind of separate them a little bit. And then I can kind of go back in and adjust. Because these ones are actually really close together over here, and then they get farther apart as they go along the side a little bit. Grabbing some white, that yellow. Okay, go ahead and zoom back out. See how that looks. Looking pretty good. All right, so let's do the background, and then we can tell if we need to add anything else to the rest of the petals. So I'm going to use just cadmium or ultramarine blue and black for this. This is actually going to be a I know. You got water right there. I'll have to fix that.
Yeah, we got to start all over again.
No, we don't.
Oh, okay. You mean it's not ruined?
Hmm?
It's not ruined?
No.
Okay.
This is like a sorry, I thought I felt something on my hand there.
It's okay.
Spatting out.
Did you change to your 8 bright?
Yes, 8 bright. Sorry, I'm supposed to tell you, aren't I?
Well, I'm trying to pay attention better, but
I don't know that I said it.
chat's been chatty
I don't
today.
think I said it.
Can't believe people are actually in chat saying stuff and nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing about food.
Really?
I'm very disappointed in these people.
Wow.
I thought some of them were my friends.
Sorry, honey. I'll talk to you about food later.
Thank you.
Speaking of food, Jordan and Nathan are probably with Courtney at the caterers right now.
Ooh.
Or the restaurant right now. Talking about wedding food. We get to try out wedding cake the other night. It was really good. Samples. I can't believe we put together a wedding in 1 week. Literally 1 week.
We as in you
And Courtney.
and Courtney.
Yes. It's happening. So we're not going to have videos all next week. We were planning on not having a video anyways on Tuesday night because I had prior engagement with a band.
With a concert.
With the concert. But then the wedding got planned for that weekend. That's next Saturday. So we'll be doing that instead of with you guys. Sorry about that, but you know. Anyhow, so that'll be fun. All right, go ahead and zoom out there, hon, a little bit more. So just don't have to worry about being on camera. Here, staying on camera. I like this royal blue color. It's the carbon black just kind of tones down that ultramarine, so it's not so bright, vivid, but it's a really pretty color. You could also do the gray if you wanted to. If you don't want to add black, you could add burnt sienna to your brown, but just use mostly blue and just do that with that blue gray, but I kind of wanted a little bit brighter. Just going around here. It's going to take a couple coats for it to look good. But I can already tell that those edges probably need to be darker. You know, now putting on this color, it looks like the flowers kind of floating out there. So we're going to darken up this bottom edges of these, and that'll way it'll kind of settle it into the painting. It won't look like it's kind of sitting on top of our color. I think I'm going to switch to this angle brush that I got out. This one, number 6, Angle Bright. And put out some fresh paint that'll help too. Out of ultramarine here. What?
Okay, so it's actually Angle Bright, not Angel Bright.
Right. Did you put Angel Bright?
Yeah, because I'm used to spelling Angela.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have to go back in and fix that.
Okay. This is probably 3 parts blue to 1 part brown, black, I'm guessing. Something like that. This is a little bit more on the black side here, but that's all right. you're doing this kind of, painting around your painting like this, it can help to kind of turn it in the direction so that you've got, you can paint in that direction of that you write in. Tends to be a little bit easier to, I hope I didn't go over the flower there. I wasn't paying attention. I feel like I cut off part of the flower right there. Let me see what I did. There we go. Yeah, I did cut it off a little bit. Make sure your background is obviously dry. If your flower is dry, then you can do those kind of corrections really easily. If it's not, then you will just lift off your flower. That would not be good. But you can always paint it back in. I've done just about everything wrong that you could do with acrylic painting, so I know. Nothing can't be fixed. We did our dolphin painting this weekend or Tuesday night, and I added about a half an hour to work to it by making a really stupid mistake, but it actually probably helps. I got a lot of comments saying, it actually helps seeing how to fix mistakes. So, mistakes are going to happen. It doesn't matter. I've been painting for 30 years and I still do stupid stuff. Make mistakes. So, but they can be fixed. And acrylics are fairly forgiving in that way. It's pretty easy to cover over anything that needs to be covered. Right there. It's kind of hard, tight right there. I can't get my brush in there.
And then it just pops.
Yeah, now we can see kind of our borders a lot easier. And
it was almost muddy, just with the whites and the different shades and stuff like that. And then you put the border in, and it's like, okay, flower.
Yep. Yeah, and it might help you to do the background first. You may have to touch up around it, mix up enough of this color so that, or use a pre-mixed color so you don't have to worry about blending in, matching any colors up. But, if you do this background first, then you'll be able to see your contrast a lot better on your flower as you're putting it in. It'll be a little bit easier to tell what it looks like, obviously, because you can see what a difference it makes just putting this color in here. And it also shows you how, colors change so much just depending on what colors you put around them. They shift according to what's next to them. Their values, a value that looked really dark before on our flower might look really light now against this super dark background, So this area in here where we were just like, oh, that's really dark. Now we put this in and they're like, oh, no, that's pretty light, actually. It's quite light, actually. So we could, go in here and change up some of the values a little bit if we need to. I need to touch up. Where did I mess up? Right up there. I need to touch that up. Grab a little bit of white. Oh yeah, down here too. I had too much water in my brush there. So this is where we can go in and just kind of look and see, you know, what else needs to be done now. So we want to kind of try to get that fixed right there. So that was I think it had a little bit of this ultramarine. I'm going to go ahead and grab that, a little bit of that in our white. I'm going to have to get a bigger brush because that's going to be a big area to blend. So I don't want to try to blend it with that tiny little brush.
Okay, somebody would like to know, do you ever use paint straight from the tube?
Not very often. Not often because they're highly concentrated colors. And so there's very few paintings. Like I think the first time that I'd done that in a long time is that pumpkin that we did last weekend. Just because those colors were so vibrant, we were able to get away with using the, you know, concentrated color. But usually you're wanting to, you know, create subtle color shifts, and those bright, vivid colors are just not going to be found in nature. You know, they're just not going to be realistic. So if you're trying to keep realism, keep your, you know, paintings looking realistic, then you're not going to be using those colors that are straight out of your tube, because those just are not, you know, mostly you're seeing a lot of grays in nature. You know, you're not, and colors are playing off each other and mixing and blending and things. You're not seeing a lot of like unpolluted color. You know, sometimes you are, but even in something like this, that's a white flower, you know, I mean, if you inspected this flower under the right lighting conditions, probably the whole surface is going to be like a creamy white, you know, but because it's in nature, and it's in an environment where it's picking up other colors, and it's, you know, picking up the greens from the trees around it, and, you know, all these other things happening, it's going to be, you know, showing all these different colors that are not obvious, that are not, you know, the flower is not blue, you know, it's not gray, it's white, but because of the way, you know, where it's sitting and all, it's got all these shadows and highlights and things happening that are changing the way our eye is perceiving it, and, you know, we're seeing all these other colors that's happening. So I don't remember what the question was.
You did good. That was using paint straight out of a tube.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And then somebody asked about if they wanted to frame this, what would they do? So for me, they would have to shrink it down a little bit and leave about a finger's width along the edges to make room for the frame so it doesn't cut it off. Oh, because the top and the bottom is very, very close.
A quarter inch is about the right, you know. I'm really bad about going right to the edge. Yeah, so if I frame this, it's going to cut off a little bit of it, but that doesn't bother me very much, so not usually. But yeah, you could make it a little bit smaller if you want the whole flower to be centered. Definitely cut it off a little bit. I'm going to actually grab some of that blue that's in our background, mix it with that green that's this color here, and I'm going to just go along this edge with it and just kind of shadow that edge a little bit. There we go. Pull some of that color from the blue in the background into that flower. Get some glazing liquid. Let's do it over here too. So I'm going to do that same thing. Grab a little bit of that background color. A little bit of that green. Let's do it down in here. This area is fairly dark. So put the color on, wipe my brush clean, grab some of that glazing liquid, and go over the edge. You scared me. Go over the edge and pull that paint out into, I'm painting a little bit. Oh, that scared me. Got my heart going.
That's what I get for having transition lenses.
What happened?
Well, I forgot that I moved the cowbell getting ready for the end of the show here, and I hit it when I went to type something.
Why would transition lenses do? Have anything to do with that?
Or I should say progressive.
Oh, thank you.
If you want to get all technical on me.
Well, I was just like, why did you go outside?
Well, I didn't Google it, so I wasn't sure how to look it up.
All right. I deserve that.
You know what I meant. Come on.
No, I didn't,
You
honestly. No. I thought you went outside. I thought you were saying you went outside, so.
No. Someone wanted to know if I fell off the chair.
Okay.
No, everybody's okay.
I really feel like I could go darker there. It just doesn't seem to want to stick. Trying to keep it subtle, but it's just I wanted to. So when we put this petal in, I would say we'll probably add a little bit of that ultramarine and black mixture, mix it up ahead of time and put it in when you do this petal. It'll make it a little bit easier to do if it's already kind of there. There we go. Grab a little bit of white. Just go back in with that white right there. And then I'm going to grab that brown, the blue, and go back in right here with that blue because it's that dark color right there. Clean that up. Okay, we're almost done here. I want to do a darker shadow right here, noticing, and a little bit more right here. So I'm going to grab some of that blue, and I'm going to do it right along that edge of my brush Get a little bit of water. Have that dark color right on that tip. We'll just go right in here. Right along that edge there. Try to catch it in that corner there. Pull it out. And if it kind of gets too far down, you can kind of just use your finger to sort of blend it out a little bit. Darkening up. Grabbing some of this white that's right here. Let's use a little bit of it down in this area. Just a little bit. Let's add some back in here too, just a little bit. Keep it on the tip of the brush to make it easier to blend, and just kind of add a little bit more water to it this time, so it's a little bit softer color. It's not as dark as I did on the other side. This side's a little bit more subtle. Let's do a little bit on this. Right there. You can see how just this little bit of highlight or shadow really, just in the right areas, really kind of helps. But you got to make sure that you get that get it blended out. You don't want it to be too. You don't want to have a solid line here. So like right there where I did that, it's not blended out right there. So what I can do, I'm gonna just use my finger right there. Right along that edge where it's not blended. Okay. What do you think, hon?
Looks pretty cool.
Almost there. Let's use a little bit of this brown. I'm going to use some water, same thing. I'm going to go over the top of this yellow now, right here. And it'll tint the edge of that flower where it's kind of going down into the shadows. And we can also kind of use it a little bit again on this petal right there. Go right along there and do really dark. Transition right there. We're about done. See if I'm missing any spots where it's obviously not blended, or this area here is a little bit subtle, so let's go ahead and go over that one more time. Grab some gray this time. Oh yeah, there's some, okay, right here. There's a shadow right there on that one. A little bit of that gray. Grab some glazing liquid, kind of push that paint around. Grab some white. Go back up this area with white. And the white's going to kind of go around, wrap around right there. Let's do white right here. Use a little bit of this gray right up in here. It's kind of gray right along that edge, just a little bit. And a little bit more gray right over here. Grabbing that white. A little bit of that glazing liquid. I'm just going to try to push that around a little bit. Put the color down, wipe off my brush, and then go back in with kind of a clean brush. Grab a little glazing liquid and just push it around. All right, I think we're done. What do you think? Done? Look good?
Looks okay.
Looks all right?
Yeah, it doesn't look like much like a rose.
I'm going to do some signature while you do super chat there. I'm going to create like a light blue and blue gray. Add water to my brush. You want to have lots of water in your liner brush. Go for it.
And that's what the moos in chat were earlier, for the cowbell.
Oh.
People are like, what are the moos? Because people put moo in the chat. And people are like, what's the moos for? It's like, we used to do it live as they were posted, but it was a little distracting for those who watch afterwards.
And for me.
And for you. So we decided we'd save them all up for the end. And these are the super chat donations during today's live show. The first one was from Cammie, and she says, "Love watching you paint." There you go.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
Sorry.
The way you did it sounded like you had more to say there.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And then
You said, what's her name?
Cammie.
Cammie. Thank you, Cammie.
And then from Mrs. Homie says, "This is a beautiful flower. I love it."
Aw.
And then we have one from Darlene, and she says, "Another stunner, Angela.
Yay.
You two really bring us beautiful art and great tutorials. Love you both. Winky, smirky face."
Who was that?
Mrs. Homie?
Thank you.
No, I'm sorry. That was Darlene.
Thank you, darling.
And then we have from Allie. She says,
I'm
"Thanks.
going with white here, sorry.
Thanks
Okay.
so much." And thank you, Allie. We really appreciate it and glad that you're with us. And then from
Thank you, Allie.
Jan, I'm finally able to pronounce her name correctly.
Nice.
"I love your finest art, Angela,
Aw.
as you probably know by now, but thanks again for sharing out of your priceless knowledge, and please give Mark some chocolate.
I will.
He's probably hungry by now." Winky face.
I love it. Give him lots of chocolate later. Thank you so much, guys. We so appreciate you. And if you try this project, I'd love to see your version of it. You can share that with me on my social media, Thankful Art, Instagram, all that good stuff is all down in the description.
Sorry, Jan is a guy.
Yeah. Oh,
I said it wrong. I am so sorry.
he's like, hey, I'm a dude.
Well, yeah, so that happened. I'm so sorry. I can't spell
If you-
angle. Just forget it. I'm food deprived.
It's not Jan.
It's Jan.
Jan. I know. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, did you
No,
think
it's not
of it?
Jan. Yeah, I used to say Jan, and now I finally got that right, and then I got it wrong again. So
Sorry, Jan.
that's my life.
Oh, I just left that in the water too long. It's cracked it. Yeah.
no.
I hope these other ones are okay. I don't know. We'll see.
Brush.
All right. I'm going to get off of here. You guys have the rest great next week. Sorry we're not going to be here for it, but we got lots of other videos to can catch up on if you've missed any of our older ones. Be a good time to do that. And we'll be back the following week
On a Tuesday,
on Tuesday, the 16th.
16th.
Yep.
Yep.
Tuesday the 16th, and we'll be doing kind of a autumn door themed painting, and then we'll be doing the rustic barn the following Saturday following. And I'll be putting up all of our new continued schedule for the rest of October, probably next week. So you'll be able to see what we're doing, but we're going to do lots of fun stuff. Looking forward to it. All right, guys, have a great week, and we will see you next time. Bye.